No, 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 no. Do it.
Hey, my name is Vincent Vargas, and you're watching the Break
The
It
Break
Down.
It Down
Wait,
show.
you scared me, dude. You threw me too many things.
I can't scare you. Come on, you're Vincent Vargas.
Oh,
Hey man, so welcome to the show. Coming on here. Your book is out tomorrow. Borderline, badass stuff. There's so many good things. Everybody should watch your episode with Jocko because you guys really dive into the book, and I'm going to hopefully cover some other parts that I think were really fascinating because, well, that's what I'd like to do, right? We all want to support each other's shows. So let me. I want to talk to the 18-year-old version of you, the one that is not an academic horse, has great parents that are examples, but you're going to fuck up a lot in the next 10 years, right?
yeah.
And if you focused on that, you could be in a way worse spot, kind of like your dad almost was, and your sounds like your grandfather was before that. Would that kid believe the good things though? Like, hey, by the way, and I'm just going to do a quick list here. Let's see, Ranger Regiment, one of the most prestigious units in the world. Also, being a badass, you deploy to combat several times. Drill sergeant, is that correct? Drill sergeant?
Yeah.
Border agent, special forces border agent, actor, movie maker, author. What would that 18-year-old kid say? The dude who goes to Chico and still can't figure out education. By the way, I went to Chico. What would that 18-year-old kid say? Let's talk to 18-year-old Vince.
Man, I don't know. I didn't know anything was there. I didn't think there was anything out in the world besides baseball. That's
Right.
how small I thought, and as well as like that's how big that dream was for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know a world where I didn't play it or I wasn't involved in it in some way, shape, or form.
Right. And I mean, when you're young, you don't know any different, right? And you're a pretty good athlete at this point. You can play at the collegiate level and everything else, but you struggle to stay academically eligible. And I bring this up because this is critical to like where you are now. Like one of your pillars of getting somewhere young is to figure it out. So your PSATs suck. 4-year school is like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do junior college. Apparently not going to do that well, right? Like there's just every year I go to my high school and I talk to spring and fall students, seniors, right? I talk about the path and I'm like, you don't know the path. None of you know where you're going to be in 10 years. And when you get there, you're going to be like, how the fuck did this happen? Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to impress upon people when you see like this product 20, 30 years later, it's built on a lot of me too, man. Me too. Like I graduated from college with a 2.38, not exactly stellar. What do you make of all that?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you this. My life has changed significantly in the last 7 years. And that doesn't include, obviously, before then I was a Ranger. And that I think was more forced. Like I wanted to challenge myself, but also I felt I was backed in a corner. I had to do something. I had to be a dad. And how do I fund my being a father was the military was the easiest answer to kind of fulfill multiple different things. And so that was almost a shortcut to making money was boom, join the military. But after the military was the big question, and the easy thing was getting to the prison system as a prison guard, right, and then apply for Border Patrol, which wasn't easy. It was actually really challenging. But the whole Border Patrol thing was just continuing the same drive and aspirations of just trying to do good and trying to be good at things.
Yeah.
The big difference, I think, was in the past 7 years where I kind of stepped outside of that military law enforcement world and jumped into a creative space. And that is where I found probably more fulfilling in the fact that I was able to pivot so dramatically into a space that was like, there's not a lot of us who are doing this, right? And to be able to do it and be successful at it, okay, now I'm a little proud of myself, you know what I mean? And that took my wife from really saying like, you can do a lot and I believe in you. And so finding someone that really told me like, go, like venture on your own, fuck it up, figure it out, but you can do it. And it's almost also just as frustrating to have a wife who believes in you. So when you do these crazy things, like I sent her, I was like, New York Post just posted an article about me. She goes, good, babe. Yeah, that's good. And I'm like, she's not excited. She expects this shit out of me, which is super fascinating. But I think it's a testament to like, I'm driven to accomplish anything I believe in because I have the support system behind me.
Yeah, I mean, you're making me think about Rocky when, like, in every movie, he was like, "Oh, I'm kind of training, I'm kind of training," and then Adrian goes, "Win," and then he's like, "Dun dun 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 dun," But you need that person who believes in you as much or more than you can. Like they see you like you're incredible, go do it. And so I want you to answer that, but I also want you to work in. Was everything in the past a sorting process to get you to where you are now? Because like you did a lot of wild stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I compartmentalize all of it. Like, even Marcus Luttrell, he read my bio and he's like, he goes, we've been friends for a long time until I've read your bio in person. Like, oh, he goes, holy fuck, man. I'm like, yeah, those are all different lives, man. Those are all different versions of me. And I say the quote, you can chase all the titles, but it's the hard work it took to get there, right? Like, it doesn't matter about all the titles, the Ranger, the drill sergeant. It really is the hard work, and so I'm just willing to put in the work to accomplish things. And once I learned that kind of like algorithm, like once I figured out that math equation, well, then it's like, well, what are you going to do next? And for me, in the efforts of this podcast is the book. The book was like the next big mission for me to try and accomplish and try and see if I could, become a New York Times bestselling author, right? And try and see what's next from that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the thing though with guys like us, and I'll put myself in your category because, I've got, look, here's my show, 1,500 episodes, and I'm not even keeping up to date. Like once you get to that number, you don't even got to talk about it anymore. Like there's a shitload of stuff that I've done. I just talked to Rich Little the other day on my show, like amazing, right? I've had 2 people that have hosted the Tonight Show on my show.
Oh, that's
awesome. Insane, right? Yeah. And so we do get these things, but I've also had like a little amateur race car career that I've had. And I was a Captain Morgan model for a while, like all these crazy things that dudes like us seem to go, that was cool, but that is over. What's the next thing? Oh, now I'm going to go be a prison guard, or now I'm going to go have 15 kids or however many kids you have now. I mean, you must pick up kids along the way too. Like, yeah, that one here, he hangs out here all the time too. Is your house one of those houses?
It would be if I needed to be. I don't mind. It wouldn't be hard for me to bring on more kids if needed. If someone in the family needed me to take. I love raising kids. I have empathy for kids, and I love my own kids so much that when they get older and move out, I hope to either adopt or something or my grandkids. I think we're frozen on this side. Yeah.
My Wi-Fi sucks right now. I'm trying to see if I can speed that up a little bit. I want to get back into the fatherhood thing, but let's back up for a second because I don't want to get past this. So the thing the most when you're young and similar to me was like I could compete athletically with my peers. And I wasn't a super great athlete, but you could put me on a basketball court, and if guys were better than me, I would find my spot and I would be able to add to the competition. And so I didn't fear like physical contact. I didn't fear losing. If you want to dunk on me, that's fine. Every time you take that ball to the rack, my hand is going to be up there and I'm going to challenge you because no one's taking pictures here. It's all effort. And I swear to God, I had a buddy that played D1 basketball and, he picked the ball one time and I chased him down and he went up to go rip it. And he was like, where'd you come from? Now he still dunked it, but he knew that there was always someone. He's way better player. He's like, I was a way better player than you. But what I knew is that if I eased up for a second, your ass would be there. And you just got to get lucky or hit a ball. And so that kind of attitude is kind of how I played sports, right?
Yeah.
When you go to Ranger Regiment, that's the major leagues in terms of physicality and athletes and everything else. It's people talk about alphas, but they don't get, like in our world, there are like on the teams or on an ODA, everyone's an alpha.
Yeah.
And you have to sort out, and you're not in competition, but you are trying to sort out who does what and where they go. Like everyone tries to outshoot the Bravo on every ODA, right? Like that's just how it goes. So how did you, as an athlete, how did you sort all that out at the regiment? Because it's impossible to be the alpha in that place because everybody's goddamn alpha.
Yeah, and I think what makes that place successful is everyone continues to maintain that and try to be the best. I think it brings the best out of everyone, and that's what I do. I showed up to Ranger Town and wanted to be the best. I went to Ranger School. I wanted to be the best. I was the distinguished honor graduate of Ranger School. You know what I'm saying? I was the distinguished honor graduate of almost every school I went to in the military, and so
Yeah.
it's been my life. When I went to the prison system, I became a special operations in the prison system. That's the best of the best. When I went to the
Right.
border patrol, I did the same. And
Yeah.
I was, and my goal is to do the same in Hollywood, right? If that's what I'm doing, well, what's the special operations version of Hollywood? Yeah, that's me. I want to do that, right? Like, so whatever that takes. So for me, the next challenge in Hollywood, or as a book writer, right, would be a New York Times bestselling author. That would be the special operations version of it, right? The top of the top.
Yeah.
And then in Hollywood, it's going to be creating my own show and being the showrunner of a show. And so those are the levels of I want to push myself, because why the fuck not?
I was with Scott Husing this weekend. You know Scott, I know Scott.
Yep.
We actually did the show together, all three of us, last time you were on the show. And we were talking about, as we get further and further from our combat selves, we get more, I would say, elegant, efficient, and wise with how we approach being special. Yeah, because you can, look, when you're young, you just try to outwork every problem. Like, well, and I often listen, I often mock Jocko, because like, well, I'll get up at 4:28, and like, I'll work out harder, right? But at some point, you can't something, and you have to find that elegance. You have to put things down and say, you know what? This is not for me. I'm not going to be a jack of all of these things. So how have you developed the elegance to be able to work in the entertainment industry has some giants in it, right? So, and you're like, I'm going to be special. Okay, so you're not going to outwork that problem. How do you approach this now that you're like an adult and everything?
Yeah, the whole entertainment industry is a different one. It's a different beast. I'm using my creative mind. Now, what do I have that most don't? They don't have the life experiences I have. And how do I bring those to television? All I have to do, I think it's a win to be able to create my own show and run it. That's a win. That's the, and for me, is being able to pay my bills and do this day in and day out is the win. And that's the major leagues of acting and filmmaking and writing. And so my goal is to be that. My goal is to just continue to pursue myself in this career field and be able to be a storyteller of our time. And if I could do that and pay the bills, well, that's exactly what I want to do.
Right. They were talking about Vincent Vargas's latest book, first book, best-selling book. Here it goes, Borderline, and the link is right down below my face down here. Make sure you guys get that. And you know what I always say? Buddy, read it. Buy two. Buy one for your friend. And I promise you are going to love hearing these stories. So I've been to Del Rio, Texas, and I went because our vice president was tasked with dealing with the border crisis, and she didn't bother going to Del Rio. And I'm like, well, I got a truck, There's a whole lot of West Texas, but I'll go out to Big Bend Park, and I'll go out and I'll go see it. I interviewed the judge who runs kind of the organization there, and you get your eyes open to the challenge. Like because of what I've done in the military, I'm asking the judge, I'm like, how do you have enough interpreters that speak enough languages to deal with all these people, and how are all these people coming here? Like Del Rio is not a gentle place to get to, right?
Yeah.
So it was eye-opening, and Del Rio itself is just a tiny little cute town. It's like Mayberry, but on the border, and 110 degrees in the summertime. So
I'm here in Del Rio right now.
Are you really? Yeah. This is how far Del Rio is, everybody. It's San Antonio. This is Pete, the non-Texan, saying San Antonio is in West Texas. You can then drive for 200 miles and still not be at the end of West Texas. And then you could drive for another 6 hours, and you still wouldn't be in El Paso. This is big terrain.
Yeah.
I was in Marfa, in that area over there, and we were driving along the border. This is about a year ago in the summertime. And we decided to come up on one of those really fun Texas routes where it's all straight up. I can't remember the name of the town, but you would recognize it. Classic. All right, there I am back. So it's classic West Texas town, and so we come basically directly north and east on this road, and it's almost an hour long on this road. And we crest over the hill. We're going to get going back into the Marfa area, and there's a couple of border patrol SUVs there, and we just go whizzing by, 3 trucks in our own little patrol, and then all of a sudden they light out after the first truck. They go after that guy because. Why are we coming? And we're nowhere. We are nowhere near the border anymore. We are an hour away from the border, and so they go in and they pull my buddy over in the front, and I'm like, well, I'm not leaving anybody alone on the border. Yes, you're in border patrol trucks, but I don't know who the fuck you are. And so I get my buddy behind me, we stagger out. And so they come in and they do a tactical stop, and we bracket the tactical stop. And your peers did not like that. And they came out at the low ready, and I kept my hands on the wheel, calm, and then this young kid comes up to me, and I roll the window down, and he's like, "Why did you do that? Why did you pull over like that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know who you are." He's like, "That's bad tactics." I'm like, "In my world, man, that's good tactics. My friend gets pulled over, I'm going to look out for him. So I'm back, I'm safe, and I'm not a threat." The whole time I got my hands on the wheel, and then the other guy comes out and he starts to calm down. But that's the world you guys play in, is that shit is dangerous. And I also know, like, maybe some cartel dude stole some fucking border patrol trucks. So are you ambushing us? Are we ambushing you? That is the real world of the border.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Folks don't get that though, do they?
Yeah, I don't think they do. It was just, I think it was a few weeks ago where there was a cloned border patrol vehicle who was caught. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's when I was working in the prison system, it's kind of funny. There was a Marine in there. I was like, "What'd you do?" And then he said he was smuggling dope. And I was like, "What?" I went to go read that. He was wearing his uniform and smuggling dope. Right? A very unfortunate story. It happens all the time. But like, you never know who's involved. You never know who's a part of it, who's been corrupted. And that's the challenges of it, the whole thing.
So again, I'm trying to illustrate for folks who don't know how big West Texas is. If you're in a truck, you're by yourself. You can radio something, but ain't no one coming anytime soon. Whatever's going to happen happens there, right?
Yeah, there's a chance you're deep inside one of these ranges. It'll take about an hour for someone to find you, to get to you. Yeah, and look, you're covering 200, say, miles of border for 20 people. And if something goes down, say, on the far left side of that terrain, right, that area, and you got 3 agents who jumped on and try to help, well, that leaves the rest of it open, and that can just leave you open to just being alone, and potentially 40, 50 migrants coming across and would have bad intentions. It could be a bad day.
Yeah. How do you guys avoid becoming casualties? And I'm not talking like combat casualties, but like if you're out for 8 hours working, which I'm positive you guys could spend 8 hours not in your vehicle, sitting in the AC. How do you guys prevent becoming the casualty yourself? Because look, it's easy to say you're ready, and look, you go into a formation, you stand still for an hour and a half. People will fall out, even if they're ready, right? It just happens. So how do you guys prepare to withstand whatever's coming every day? And that's just the hard part of living in Del Rio or Boquillas or somewhere like that.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of finds a system to manage. Everyone has some kind of Camelback system, but as well as the vehicles have water coolers that you put water in for yourself as well, and sometimes freeze water bottles. And so there's systems that we put into place for ourselves. You usually won't jump a group, meaning start apprehending a group or cutting sign, tracking a group without letting someone know. And you get to a point where they could pick you up and then they get on foot and give you a break. And so we work together as much as we can. It might be a few miles, but everyone's in a position where they should be able to manage themselves and understand themselves with a Camelback and ammo. Go out there for 5-6 hours on your own and still be able to manage it.
Yeah. Let's talk ammo. Because, look, everybody thinks we all got like unlimited ammo on us. That ain't the truth. So what does that look like? I mean, and how do you guys marshal if you get into something, or if you're about to get into something again? Like, what do you have on hand? 200 rounds, maybe?
Not even that. No. Yeah. So the Border Patrol, remember, they're law enforcement. Most law enforcement always, their primary weapons, is a pistol. And most Border Patrol agents, their, I guess their combat load or their workload, I think max would probably be 4 magazines, which, right, each magazine carries, I don't know, maybe 10 rounds. I don't know what they're shooting out from when I was in, but that's not a lot, right? So most of us on hand can wear some tactical vests or some kind of tactical belt system. A lot of things have changed slightly recently, so people can kind of modify their gear a little bit better. Yeah. But I don't. It's not like us in Iraq. It had 7 full combat load mags. You know what I mean? And then demo and hand grenade and So, but again, this is not the type of law enforcement that it's few and far between. It's those days you don't expect that there might be contact, and there's very little contact as per capita of the Border Patrol itself. There's almost the likelihood of an actual event happening is very low. But the problem is when that event happens, it could be catastrophic. Yeah. And so, there might be a little complacency sometimes, but for the most part, our job is a more passive approach to humanitarian mission, to safeguarding human life. But the prepared side to hopefully, in the worst case scenario, you're prepared for a potential, firefight with the enemy, with which maybe a cartel or maybe just drug smuggler or rip crews, right? So the potential adversary is kind of different. They wear different hats.
Yeah, and I love that you're explaining this because you and I both know, like, okay, so my kit evolved over time, and when you see like the guy with the 8-inch Gurkha knife, you're like, please stop. Like, what are you gonna do with that thing? It's just, and for me, like, how do I get weight off my back so I'm not doing damage to my body? But if they need me to carry a bandolier of weapon, of arms, whatever, yeah, let's do that, right? But you're trying to find what's the least amount of stuff that I can bring, but I have enough of everything, right? And it's not easy. And then the thing you're most likely to do and really get in a bad situation is providing aid to more people than you can provide aid to, right? Because they're less prepared than you are to be in the deserts.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. You're not going to find very many law enforcement organizations or even military organizations that have to wear multiple different hats at once, right? So as much as we're enforcing Homeland Security, we're also managing a humanitarian issue. We also sometimes are crisis counselors because they've just lost their loved ones in the attempt to come across. We're also providing medical attention to the individuals. We're also translating at times. We're also, you know what I mean? So it's like so many different things that happen in one scenario that you are changing hats back and forth to be the most sufficient agent you can be. Our job is to be really good Border Patrol agents, and being a good Border Patrol agent is being all of those at once. And that's the complexities of this career field. We saw, you saw on the media recently, Border Patrol agents cutting the barbed wire, and everyone's up and roar about that, right? But in a different time, people would be like, man, that's a really respectable job that they did is help people not get injured since they've already came here illegally. But since energy and the emotions are so high about the topic, it's all taken out of context and it's all used to argue and it's all used in a political narrative, but it doesn't have to be. For me, understanding that why the Border Patrol agent already was cutting the barbed wire. Well, I understand the job. I understand that those people are already 20 yards from the Rio Grande River, and they're already entered illegally. At that point, where our job is to safeguard lives, is not to bring harm to them, but to say, okay, you've entered illegally, you broke the law. Let's take you in and prosecute appropriately. But other organizations sometimes take a more aggressive posture because they don't really understand like the culture of the Border Patrol and what we do. And so law enforcement sometimes, DPS or whoever it is, sometimes takes a more aggressive approach, even National Guard. Some would say they should be taking an aggressive approach. I would say every situation dictates, right? Yeah. And so that's the challenge. We have to be on our feet, thinkers and problem solvers all day, every day. It's just like Iraq on a mission. You have to be able to flexible and understand the situation. And in the Border Patrol, we have to do that more so and being critiqued by it daily.
One of the things out there too is there's not a lot of clear property lines, right? And so you're on private property at some point, maybe federal property, and it's got to be hard to know, to understand the legalities of where you are. Sure, maybe you can go after. Right? You're smiling. I'm shutting up. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
No, it's crazy because there's also native land. Imagine that. So
yeah,
you know what I mean. So you have to abide by ranches. They have to, you have to build good relationships and rapport with your ranch owners. You have to build rapport with your natives, right? Some of the Kickapoo and all these other native tribes that own the land. We have to work together in trying to fulfill this. And sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes some Border Patrol agencies probably drove a little too fast and ruined a crop, and all of a sudden they've ruined the relationship between ranch owners and so on and so forth. And so there's so many challenges in doing this career that people don't understand the nuance of it, and they want to dictate and judge instead of understanding. Like, I invite anyone to come to the border and walk it with me, and I'll show you all of this. But I offer that to some of the biggest social media influencers on social media at this time, and no one has taken me up on it. These guys who are multimillionaires, who can probably fly a private jet straight into Del Rio. I said, come walk with me. I'll show you. And then let's really enlighten people on how challenging this job is and really understand it. Let's explain it to the people so they understand, because too many people are getting emotional and arguing over something that the answer is genuinely in the middle of both of those arguments, right? We're trying to do something that, and I explain it this way in the book. I say, there's homeland security and there's immigration, and both of those have to be met. Right now, the dial is probably turned a little too far to immigration, where we're having a massive influx. And when you do that, you actually risk your homeland security, the protection of our own people. And so we have to really take a step back and go, hey, this is not safe. This is dangerous. There's a potential for danger. It's a potential that we're creating. I like to say, the Trojan horse of America. You know what I mean? They're all coming into our country and they're sitting here waiting for the moment to attack. I don't know, but there's a possibility for that to be happening currently at this moment because of the massive influx of immigration. So we have to be very, very cautious about how we communicate immigration, how we feel about it. And we have to stop using our emotions to dictate that. We have to really educate ourselves on what's going on our borders today.
I don't know if you ever met Lewis Owen. He is, well, at least was a couple of years ago, the judge who ran the response, for Del Rio and the county down there. And he's like, I'm a Democrat. However, I have a job to do. I got to protect, my citizens, and me and the sheriff work together to try to figure this out. And what he explained to me, and this is just remarkable, is you can have an immigration policy, but if Governor Abbott wants to become president and Governor Biden doesn't want him to become president, those guys will undermine each other's success. And so they're like, hey, border agents, good luck. No extra budget money this year. Maybe you can get some local cops to help you. And so Texas and the government have to fight. And the county's like, we don't have resources. And so like everybody gets mad about sending people up to Martha's Vineyard and everything, even within Del Rio. And this is just the judge talking. He's like, I don't have the money. I don't have the budget. I don't have anything to take care of all these problems. And so I send folks to San Antonio, and I'm positive they don't like it there, but I can't take care of these people here, right?
Border towns are starting to take the position of, why should they have to manage this, right?
Yeah.
It's not their doing, right? You have the federal system, the federal policies, right? The Border Patrol falls under federal. Then you got the state of Texas, who is very, very, strict on illegal immigration and immigration. And you have two of those parties who, like I said, you have law enforcement and Border Patrol, two complete different approaches to law enforcement, right? And so one's more passive, one's more humanitarian, the other one is more aggressive, and like, you break the law, you're going to jail. And so I love both of those, but when they're not working together and cohesively, it starts to create tension, and that's what creates more arguments for both sides of the argument, left and right. It doesn't matter, and yet whether he's a Democrat or not, it doesn't matter. Like in this situation, it should be non-political. It should be completely like, here's what we need to do and how do we fix it? How do we manage it? Because right now, Democrats and Republicans are facing this. They're all dealing with it, whether they like it or not. And so if you remove politics from it, you have to realize right away, like, this is something that's in our face currently right now, and we have to manage it because it's becoming overwhelming, and border towns can't manage it. So they're sending it to a city near you,
Yes. Yeah. There's politics and there's policy. And if your policy isn't properly provisioned, if you haven't gotten the House and Senate to say, yes, here's $5 billion, let's hire some temp agents, let's, whatever, right? But if they don't do that, again, it's left to the judge to take care of it. And one of the things he said is like, look, I've got a budget and I got elected to do certain things, and that's all been taken away from me by people who don't live here. And so I can't do the job I was hired to do because I'm scrambling. Like I had to go find this kind of interpreter the other day. And that means I had to go to San Antonio. And so they had no problem supporting me then. But when I send my problem to them and its people, they don't like it, right? And so that's that whole thing. Like, how do you provision this? And so I guess one of the questions I want to ask you is, are you guys ever fully staffed? Are you guys ever fully provisioned for what is required? And I just want to say this for everybody watching. Look, I'm not talking politics here, right? So the boss gets to set the dial wherever he wants to set it, and then he goes to Congress and they provision that. So that's what we're talking. We're not talking about Democrats or Republicans. Did you ever feel like you guys were fully trained, fully funded, fully manned, or no?
Yeah, you know what? Depending, I'll tell you this. At one point, the Del Rio sector, right? And so the Del Rio sector was under a policy called Operation Streamline. And I saw your camera froze. You want me to stand by for a second, or you're good? There you go. Sorry, I didn't want to make sure that
internet locked up. Just
right.
keep rolling if that happens, and hopefully I'll come back. I can't fix it in flight here. So,
No, not a problem.
well, sorry, what was the answer again?
Yeah, so Del Rio sector at one point had a thing called Operation Streamline, and everyone who came over illegally was punished, right? They had to do jail time. It was the first time was 30 days, the second time was 6 months, the third time was like a year, so on and so forth. It actually established some kind of a foundation of like, you cross illegally, you're going to jail. That itself, that policy put into play really changed the shape of illegal immigration here in the Del Rio sector. We were having, man, what you see today, sometimes 4,000 to 9,000 in a day, here was maybe 150 would be like, oh my God, we had a busy day. Why is that? Because there was repercussions for their actions and people knew that, and they wouldn't cross. Like, why? I don't want to go to jail. So they wouldn't cross. So they'd go find another border that had more lenient rules, like Arizona at the time, where you could cross 12 times before you actually get any jail time. So at that point, yeah, I felt like we had enough manpower. I felt like we were doing the job. There was very few getting by. We were apprehending enough. There wasn't this massive influx, and we could manage it. So yeah, at that point, yes. But that also means we had the wall. We have cameras. We have seismic sensors. We have the bodies. We have individuals who can work the job. We had all the stuff we needed to make it a well-rounded approach to immigration. On top of that, we had a policy that supported it. So yeah, at that point, it was manageable. Right now, the policy that's put into place, and this is no bashing or anything, just straight facts, the policy put into place, it makes it very challenging with the asylum cases. What happens is everyone knows you claim asylum, you get an opportunity to come into America, and then it takes a long time for them to determine whether your asylum case is valid or not. And so you get the NTA, the notice to appear. And, I spoke with a couple of my buddies who are very intelligent in this space, and we looked at the numbers, and it looks like only 3% even return for an NTA, for the notice to appear to see the immigration judge. That's insane.
That's insane. And what is the policy's response to that, right? Like, you get this failed outcome because it's great to trust people, but if they're not proving to be compliant with the system, we got a problem.
Yeah, so day in and day out, I'm kind of trying to manage it and see what's going on, see what the changes are put into place. Still currently, you have massive influx of individuals. They're getting processed as they can because of it's kind of overload. We kind of have a funnel currently right now when it comes to the ERO, which is like your ICE in deportation, because once it gets to them, where do they house them? Well, there's nothing put into place currently for housing. What immigration has for housing is detention. It's a prison, right? And so you don't have a humanitarian household, right? We don't have a school or some kind of camp for humanitarian situation, what we have currently right now. And so since we don't have anything, what do? Well, currently what they do is they give them a notice to appear. And that's something I believe we're going to reap the repercussions of that in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I was a counterintelligence agent, and boy, if I was on the other team, I'd be licking my chops. And here's exactly what I would do. I'd find my military age males, and I would say, if you get stopped, you say, I'm a homosexual. If I go home, I'll be killed. I want asylum.
Right.
And now you know what happens. I build my sleeper cells because those guys are going to go and they're going to get treated well. And that's if they get caught.
Yeah. I don't, I guess because of my background, your background, I don't have a fear set like, oh my God, I'm so angry and nervous. You know what I mean? I just kind of like, that's going to be a problem we're going to have to deal with. And I know, and you know it, right? And, I'd rather take the position of no emotion on that and say, hey, we should definitely be very smart about this and be prepared for this because there is a potential for that.
Yeah. Yeah. The one good news is that America is awesome if you've lived somewhere else and you've never been to, I always use Hooters as an example. You come from Syria and you get on a boat and somehow you get over here and you're going to cross it legally and you have nefarious intent. And then some dude's like, hey man, you want a beer? Let's go to Hooters. Oh, a lot of that problem is solved. It's like, how do I get me some money so I can get me some girls and some orange shorts, right? And just by having the greatness of America, I think we do scoop up a lot of these folks. But if they're radicalized and from wherever they're from and they're intent on harm, we have a problem.
Yeah, I think we have to take the approach and be prepared. We already know that people say, how many do you think are probably coming across from these these countries that have terrorist organizations, and someone would throw a number like, oh, maybe only 2%. Yeah, but 2% of like 8 million is a lot of fucking people.
That's a lot of people. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it don't take a lot to look at 9/11, 19 individuals caused that much damage, right? And so I think we should always be concerned. I think the implementation of Homeland Security was important, and I think we need to continue to uphold that, and we need to really set up our boundaries with illegal immigration and how we can protect our nation.
The book is called Borderline. It's from Vincent Vargas. He's your buddy. He's your pal. And that's what we're talking about. There's the link down below. Definitely get the book. I've enjoyed reading it just because, look, I love dudes like us who are like just doing these, like you said, you don't just go to Border Patrol. You're like, I want to be Special Border Patrol, and get involved. So I want to add, let me ask you one more policy question.
Yeah.
If you could advise the boss to twist the dials in a certain way, whether the boss is Abbott or Biden or somebody else, how would you, the dude who's on the ground, what would you want more of or less of?
I think there's this question is always given to me, and it's kind of like, well, there's not a 1 + 1 = 2 answer for this, right? This is the recipe for a cake, and anything too much or too little will fuck the whole recipe up, right? And there's a lot of levels to how we fix this, and it starts with education. We need to do a diplomatic approach to educating everyone south of America and explaining the people that really want to come here for the opportunity of America. Let's educate them on how to do it the right way. Let's also streamline that process for people who show no criminal record or actually here with good intentions. Let's see. Last year we allowed 1.5 million people to come into this country legally, right, through the process, and that's a lot of people. You know what I mean? But those people have proven to want to come here and do it the right way. How do we streamline the process for others? And where's the max capacity of how many we could actually allow? We have to determine that. Then there's other things like DACA and we're fighting against trafficking organizations that want to maintain their business. And so we have to send counterintelligence. We have to show people the truth. We have to enlighten them through education. And then we have to change our policies to make sure that they're enforced by. You cannot just come here, break the law, and still get into this country like it is. Currently, it's incentivized. It shouldn't be. And it's not intentionally incentivized, but they just found the loophole, and the system isn't changing for some reason. And so it's going to continue to be this situation until it's changed. Yeah.
Driving through Big Bend Park, the last thing I want them to do is put a fence all up and down the Rio Grande. Like that place is a treasure. Boquillas doesn't need a bunch of fence line in it. It's a shame, and I hope that we actually can use a bunch of technology or more technology than we have, and really do a better job of this. And by the way, I don't know about you, and I guess you could tell me, I'm all for opening the funnel up and finding a way to process more people faster. Like when someone comes in, it might be 10 years before they become a citizen. Could we streamline that, and make it so that the illegal option is dumb? And just why not come on in and welcome? I'm all for being very open with our immigration and letting people who want to bet on America, fuck yeah, come on, let's go. You want to leave your homeland? I'm all about it. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think I want to streamline the situation. It's something I just mentioned is we should be streamlining this situation a little bit better. We want people that want to come to America and who want to be American, right? Who want to assimilate to our culture, who want to be proud of the American foundation of land of opportunity. And we want them to teach their kids that. That's what we want. We want people to invest back into this country so it maintains what it is today. What my grandmother instilled in me, I instill in my kids, so on and so forth. But if we don't have that, if people are entering illegally, they don't care sometimes about what the cultural of America is. And so they don't believe in our American flag. They don't believe in what it stands for. And so when they have small pockets of their own belief, it really starts to dilute the waters of what America stands for. And it makes it a scary place. We have to be very cautious about that. So yes, I want people to come here who want to come here, who want to invest back into America. I want them to believe in what it is, because if it afforded them the opportunity to come here and be able to have opportunity, well, then let's continue that for their kids and their grandkids.
Love it. I love it. Let's talk about combat versus patrolling as a border patrol agent. You've been to Afghanistan, you've been to Iraq, and I don't know what your specific roles were in those places, but day in, day out, super safe, right? But the second it's dangerous, most dangerous place on the earth, and you don't control when that happens. You're just, it's like you're waiting for the dun, 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 and then boom, you're like, ah. So, which one was worse for you? Like, which area was it? Afghanistan? Was it Iraq? Was it the border? Where would you feel the most exposed?
I mean, hands down, Mosul, Iraq was the most dangerous place I've ever been. You know, we were in the, when some of the triangle of death, they called it, one of the areas that we were in. But
what year were you there?
2005.
Oh man, I was there too. Yes, I agree.
And so the interesting thing, though, Afghanistan is very similar to the border in the sense, for my experience, was that you can get very complacent because it's a dry hole, then boom, action. And in the Border Patrol, it's very similar to that. It's illegal immigration. You just apprehend individuals. You safeguard them from losing their lives. You do everything you can. And then there's going to be one guy, with dope running who's aggressive. And that turns into a failure to yield. And now they're driving high rate of speed and you're chasing them down. And then the threats that brings to the community. And so it's so on and so forth. And that continues to be a thing where you never know what you're going to get into. And like I said in the book, at one point, I'm going to go get lunch. The next minute, I'm chasing a car that's known for arms smuggling, and you're like, oh, shit, here we go. And so, it's a very dynamic job and it changes throughout the day. And you have to always be on your toes and ready for the worst case scenario and hope to God it's the best case scenario every time.
When you go to Mosul in 2005, you're going there in part because the big army goes, oh, shit, we got Talafar, we got problems up here. We've got to get people in, right? And so they flex in more capacity. And when you get there, it's time to have a fight, right? That's your unit's job, is to sort this out. And it was crazy then. I mean, people can't understand how many Iraqis were being just assassinated or having their throats cut, and just like throat cut, boom, at the 7-Eleven. They leave that dude. Don't you dare touch him, because he's a message. He's no longer a human. He's a message to people. And it was fucking dangerous, man. It was really, really dangerous. We got into all kinds of trouble out there. We got shot at all the time, blown up. And I saw a fast mover fly in, like, supersonic, drop its ordnance and fly away. And I thought, good God, it was amazing. And I didn't ever see that in any other place except for Iraq. I did see some stuff in Talafar that was crazy as well. But yeah, Mosul was dangerous.
Yeah, Mosul was.
Yeah. Yeah, that dry hole thing, right? When you're just constantly repeating these cycles, and you have to always be ready, but you have to have all these hats, man. People don't get how challenging that is. How long can someone do that work? Because it's high stress. Look, I talk about the War Dragon, right? And as soon as you release the War Dragon, like Hamas did, the War Dragon feasts on anything it wants. It will kill you in 10 years. It'll kill you in 10 seconds. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you know. Doesn't matter at all, right? And, boots wear out, belts snap in half, all kinds of crazy things. We just wear shit out. But that must be true for you guys in the Border Patrol too. You can't work that jack in the box every day and not take mental and physical damage constantly.
Yeah, they're having a massive influx of mental health issues, right? And it's a hard career field when you have the media and everyone else demonizing you, telling you that it's the worst job in the world. Blaming you for things that have nothing to do with the Border Patrol's job, right? Like the ICE job is not Border Patrol's job. Housing is not Border Patrol's job. So blaming them for that, it never made sense. And then not highlighting like how good they do when they do good things, right? So it's a career that is getting no support, no love, and at the same time, every day, day in and day out, you're seeing a potential walking up on multiple dead bodies your whole career. In a 30-year career, it would not be uncommon for you to see over 1,000 dead bodies in your career. In one summer in Del Rio, there was 257 deaths. Those are from people attempting to cross the river and not realizing how fast the stream was, or drowning with their whole family, wife and kids, or mother and kids, or being exposed to the weather, the conditions, the heat out here, overheating, dehydrating, and dying in the middle of a ranch. And so that happens so often out here. And that's why the Border Patrol rescues more lives than any other agency. They're out here trying to safeguard human life daily because of that. Because individuals who get, one, manipulated to believe that this is the right way of doing it or the only way of doing it, or two, they get scattered from a group because the coyote leaves them to dry, right? Leaves them to hang in a ranch, and then they get lost in the desert heat of 116 degrees. And so when you're an agent and you walk up on death often, and you do that for 30 years, that's not normal. That's not a healthy situation to do, and do it day in and day out. Especially you have an empathetic heart for human life, right? It's just, it'll eat at you. And that's the challenges that they face. That's the hardships that they face daily.
I'm going to ask you a delicate question. So I'm going to try to see if I can ask it in a way that makes sense. I've worked with a lot of different units, right? And units at their best, ODAs, SEAL teams, whatever it's going to be, Rangers, at their best, they collect these great humans and make them even greater, and they do great things. But at their worst, and I'll say the SEALs, they gather sociopaths, and they aren't great, and they don't handle the rigors of it well. And they self-select because they are physically capable. They are tough enough to do it, but they, for whatever reason, they aren't wired right. So when you have a border agent that self-selects in, do you guys collect people that want the contact, that want the combat, that want to, that aren't what represents the best of being on the border as a border agent?
I think there's always those outliers in groups, those outliers who don't have the same intentions that most of us do, right? The Border Patrol has a majority of Latin American or Hispanic Border Patrol agents. And so most of them are first generation, second generation, third generation. Yeah. So there's usually an empathetic ideology for, what immigration stands for, but there's also the belief of upholding what gave their family the opportunity. And so there's a really beautiful combination of an agent who wears the badge and holds the gun, but also holds the respect for what his job is. And there's always going to be an outlier in every situation. And I think the patrol is very good about managing that, about identifying those people and getting them pushed out of the organization. We understand our job is not what the world wants to tell us it is. Our job is a very sensitive one by nature, and it's a very complex one. And I think they've done a really good job of hiring the type of individuals that you need on the border doing it. I mean, it's one of the most educated agencies in a nation as well. There's I think it's 45% have bachelor's degrees, maybe a little bit lower than that, but that's a high number for law enforcement, And so, they've proven time and time again that it is a very rigorous and challenging background investigation to even getting into this job, and then jumping into it. It's very rigorous, becoming a journeyman as well. And so I think the things that they put in place have been very good.
Towards the back of the book, you talk about Uvalde, Texas, which, by the way, is in West Texas and still nowhere near Del Rio. I mean, look, they're an hour apart. Yeah. But if you saw how far it is from one part of West Texas to the next, I mean, really, honestly, dude, it's island hopping. Like if your car breaks down, someone has to rescue you, because you could legitimately die out there. It's so big and hot. But talk about that a little bit, so people understand the size of that place. But also talk about why you brought that part in, because, look, we're trying desperately to figure out this school violence thing, right? It's just it's like a cancer that we've got that we can't seem to figure out how to shake it.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk on the BORTAC team and the BORSTAR team who put in beautiful work at that day, Del Rio sector is a big sector. And fortunately enough, a lot of the guys live in the Uvalde area, and we're able to respond to that as soon as they possibly could. And a BORTAC agent who is highly trained, a guy that I personally worked with and absolutely love, made a decision without the call from the higher ups. He shot the message saying, "Hey, we need to go." Before getting a response, he went, because he knew he needed to do his job. And a couple of BORTACers were with him doing the job, and they were able to engage on the threat. And then immediately after, the BORSTAR agents were there, doing triage and doing medical interventions on as many individuals they could to save as many lives as possible. I highlighted that because it's important to show that the capabilities, one, of the Border Patrol, but two, the positives that they've implemented themselves into the communities that are outside of immigration. This is just a community, and they're willing to do whatever they have to safeguard their own communities. It is a beautiful career field, and it's a challenging career field. It was about an hour drive for some maybe 45 minutes, and a lot of turn of events happened that made it the way it was. And it was, it turned out to be obviously one of the saddest days of our existence of school shootings. But there was a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that, life was saved still at the end of that. I think it's important to note that the school shootings side of things, I think it's awesome that Texas, I'm coming new to Texas. I just moved back to Texas, and to see law enforcement officers, at the schools, in my area where I live in the Dallas area, DFW area, I think is insanely comforting as a parent to know. And when I go into the school to take my kids and see those law enforcement officers in great shape, even more, I buy those guys. I gave them books. I'm doing whatever I can to show them like it is not unnoticed that their position in protecting our children. And it is, to me, is the most respectable job outside of what the Border Patrol does is school law enforcement officers to protect our kids.
I'm with you. I think the first thing we need to do is have Officer Lethal be there. And I'm not talking about the dude who's like extra duty. I'm going to stand here with a service revolver. I mean, like, nope, carbines. And if you come here, expect to fight. And this bad motherfucker and this bad motherfucker and that bad motherfucker are all going to be here to meet you, you know? And because you can't expect the Uvalde PD to have that kind of special capacity on hand. It's just not a big enough place to have that. And I want to say this too on the other side of it, when people say, oh, teachers should have guns, like, they don't understand how hard it is. When I take my friends out shooting, I'll say, walk in place and try to hit a target. Just walk in place. You know, it is really, really tough. Now add in adrenaline and I mean, I don't know how many rounds you'd have to put down range a year in actual combat training, but it's a lot to stay proficient in that kind of unknown environment and not get yourself killed because you have all of these agencies converging on this one place, you know?
Yeah, it's a challenging topic. I think, you know, and the sad truth of it is like we learn from terrible events like that, and we can AAR them and hopefully develop something that makes it more successful every time. My sister's a teacher, and I don't imagine her ever having the ability to carry a gun and use it when needed. It's a scary thing for a woman like her. She entered the schools to be a teacher, but I don't have any problems with a teacher choosing to carry if that's their right to. I just hope that they train with it, because the most dangerous person in the room with the gun is an untrained person. So, you know, I know a lot of companies that are out there training teachers as much as possible, and I hope they continue to do that. And I think it's important. And I think everyone has a right to choose whether they want to protect themselves or not. And I just hope that they are highly trained in doing so.
Okay, so we always got to ask you what's next, because you don't sit still. What's next, man? What are you going to do next?
I'm going to stay in the writing space. You know, I really enjoy, you know, the writing world. I love it. The ability to be a storyteller, but also someone who can send a message and deliver a message that has impact. You know, if this book does well, you know, it'll be able to slingshot my next one, to do another one. And then also hopefully writing a couple television shows that I'm working on, and hopefully, you know, we'll see how that goes. So.
Yeah, that is, every television show that gets anywhere near a full season is just a miracle. And beyond that, it's just, you know how tough that is.
It's almost impossible. It's a lottery ticket.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, a broken arm can kill a show. Like, oh, that guy broke his arm. Well, we're going to have to, nope, never again going to get this close. You know, anything can happen. It's crazy.
I've had several things, you know, will never see the light of day.
Yeah, and you're desperate to make it, like, put more energy into it, but you just have to walk away from them. And if their time comes, which it won't happen, it is so hard. So, another book, more writing, documentaries.
Yeah, I'm actually, yes. I was just gonna say yes. You know, we did The Gift. That was with, you know, David Neese in our team. I have an animated film right now that's going through the whole, you know, film festival route. I think we've won a couple awards and we've been nominated multiple times already. That's something I wrote about addiction. And, you know, I'm currently waiting to hear about a future potential job in writing as well. And so, you know, there's a lot on the table. We're working. You know, like I said, I still do consulting for Department of Homeland Security. I still involved in the space of the border. The book is kind of, you know, putting more of a target on my back of like, oh, you're the subject matter expert. And I'm like, okay, so be it. I will be that for them, and I'll continue to be a voice for those who don't have one.
Yeah, I don't hear you saying acting roles.
You know, it's the acting and writing are kind of one and the same for me. You know, I don't necessarily care about the fame of any of that. I love the challenge of it, and I think if the right acting job shows up and it makes sense, then yeah, I'll take it. But my aspirations are more being a writer and a show creator, as a showrunner. And if anything I do create, I'll obviously put myself a small role in each one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to do that. I saw Barbara and Jen kicking in some comments. I want to make sure I acknowledge them, and I also want to acknowledge the fact that you wrote a book. There it is, right there, borderline. And there's the link down below. It's in the comments. Look in the comment section on YouTube.
I would love to address Jen if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
And I see you chiming in, and I appreciate it. How do you stop it? You know, this is something that we all have to be very cautious and very, very adamant about who we vote and what we're voting for. That's part of our policies. And if you still believe in that system, because sometimes it's hard to believe, it's a really weird thing. But on the other side, like, how do you use social media to combat illegal immigration? You know, I think if you read the book, I think it's going to give you a good foundation of understanding how this works. Really, really start to learn what it's about, because I think when you read the news, too often we get a very dramatized or exaggerated version of the truth. It's somewhere in the middle of those. You know, everybody's chasing likes, shares, and follows, and so they'll use the most dramatic story that will catch attention, and it might not necessarily be fully full of facts. And so I caution everything. I question everything. I don't trust anybody. And if you're really curious about it, we can set up something for you. Come down to the border and see it yourself.
Yeah, and I just got to say, every time I had an embedded reporter, if I even had a chance to talk to them, because you think they'd talk to everybody, but they don't, they were coming for a story and never the story. And they would often have that thing already in their head turning, and then they would look for what they wanted to find, right? And you're not saying no to that, because I know you've experienced it.
Yeah. You know, I just, you know, there was an article out on the New York Post, and you know, a lot of the information they said is true, but when they stack one quote from chapter 1 behind a quote in chapter 6, it actually changes the story a little bit, and it makes the narrative a little bit like, wait, that's not exactly what I said, but those are both my quotes, and you stack them on top of each other, it kind of generates a new story. And so, you know, everything is very, very, very interesting on what we see on the news and how people portray it. And if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, grab the book, read it, and then you can ask me any question you like.
You've done all these amazing things, been to all these amazing places. You worked with incredible people. What's one of the times when you looked around and like, I can't believe I get to do this and be here? I mean, there's so many of those things. So what stands out?
You know, it's a little surreal being on TV at times, but it doesn't really fill the cup in the same sense of doing the right thing by the men and women of the Border Patrol. I think seeing my book in a Barnes and Noble for me was kind of that was something I'm very proud of, because I know the message in that book is genuine and real, and I think it'll impact many, many people. And so for me, that is something I'm extremely proud about, being able to actually step outside of the box of this fame and the movies and TVs that really don't fill my cup. But being able to tell a story that needed to be told at the right time, I think is the most valuable thing I've done in my lifetime, besides being a father.
Yeah. Man, that's fantastic. That it really is. I love to hear that. What we're basically done here. So what do you want to ask me? What else do you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
Oh, nothing. You know, it's, for me, it's like, I'm going to continue to be a storyteller. I'm going to continue to be telling the truth. I'm going to continue to just tell it like it is, whether people don't like it or not. Like, we just have to tell the facts, whether it be through social media, whether it be through blogging, whether it be through the books. I hope people take the time to go read this book. I hope they take the time to go pick it up and support. And, you know, if this book does what I hope it does and be a New York Times bestselling book, well, then there'll be several others right behind it.
Yeah. No, I love it. The last thing I want to say to you, maybe to get one more quick comment, because we got another minute or so, is when I talked to the judge, he said his biggest concern out of all these things was that one of his neighbors would have to take a life because of this policy and its inability to put people through a gate that we can all do it. And he's like, and I'm like, because you'd fear that you'd have to put them in jail. He's like, no, we'd figure that part out. But just the emotional toll of having to draw down on somebody. You're a rancher, you're a civilian, and you have to take someone's life to protect your own. He's like, I can't bear the thought of putting my neighbors through that. And that really put it into perspective for me on what happens when a policy is disconnected from the ground truth. He's not worried about anything else as much as that. His neighbors, his friends.
Yeah. No, and that's the true heart of like what it is. Like, we care about the people to the left and to the right of us. And if you care about the people to the left and right of us, you know, we have to really understand the dangers of having a border that is not, you know, that is not deterring, that is not protecting, but is more so an open swinging door right now currently because of the policies that are in place. It's dangerous and scary.
It's dangerous and scary. On that note, let me roll these credits. I'll be right back to you.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to.